first thing we do is we say, how many times can 5 go into 14?
2.
And it goes in 2 times. Then what is our next step? Okay, but how did we get the 10? Multiply. Okay, you're not listening to my question. What is our next step? Where there's no 10 right now. How do we get the 10?
Multiply.
Multiply. So we do 2 times 5 is 10. And then what's your next step? Subtract. And then we're going to write this down. We're going to bring this 3 down also. And this is where this is a little bit different. When you're dividing polynomials, we bring everything down. But when we talk about just numbers, we usually just look at what numbers it would go into. So how many times does 5 go into 43? 8. And now what do I do with that 8? Multiply it by 5. 8 times 5 is? 40. And then what do I do? Subtract. So I have a 3 and I bring the 2 down. How many times does 5 go into 32? 6 times. Then what am I doing? Multiplying. And then I am subtracting. Bring this number down. 5. Okay, I don't need to finish. What I wanted you guys to know, or what I wanted you to get in your head is what we're doing is the process. You're dividing, you're multiplying, and then you're subtracting. Then you're going to start over again. Dividing, multiplying, subtracting. Okay, it's all a big pattern. And that's what we're going to do today with dividing polynomials. So go ahead and grab some notes. This is 5.4. 5.4 is over 2 days. Today is long division. Tomorrow is synthetic division. Synthetic division is actually easier than long division, but it doesn't always work. So we have to learn the way that always works, and then I'll show you the way that works on some of them.
Are we going to know if it works or not before we do it?
Yep. Okay. So we're going to take, let me move this up so I can see it. We're going to take 4x squared plus 23x minus 16, and we're going to divide, so we're going to divide this by x plus 5. So we're going to take this big polynomial and we're going to divide it by x plus 5. I got to make sure there's one. I might have to do it out of the book also. Okay, so how we're going to set this up with long division. It's going to look a lot like with the numbers, but you're going to have polynomials instead. Whatever you're dividing by goes on the outside, and whatever you're dividing goes on the inside. Now I'm going to leave a little space over here, and this is going to be my thinking area. And you may, if you're not one that can do a lot of stuff in your head, you might want to just jot this stuff down as you work through this. But what you need to know is we are always, for this polynomial, always going to be dividing by this x. No matter what we're dividing, we're always dividing by the first term of this part. The second thing you need to know is if I would have had a hole in here, I have to fill it in with a 0. So I have to represent every space all the way down. So because we start with an x squared, I have to have an x place and I have to have a number place. So if this would have been 4x squared minus 16, I would have had to fill that in with a 0x, which I'm going to find one that we'll put in our notes in a minute. I don't have one in this part, so I'll find one. Okay. The next thing you need to know is the process is the same. We're going to look at always the first term here, and we're going to divide it by this x. So over here I'm thinking, what is 4x squared divided by x? So you have to remember your exponent rules a little bit. 4x. So I'm going to put that up here. 4x. I did my dividing. Then what was my next step when we did this with the numbers? Multiply. So we divided, then we multiplied. When we multiply this 4x, you're going to multiply it by this whole thing. So over here, I'm doing my little thinking work. 4x times x plus 5. So I'm just going to distribute this in. So I have 4x squared plus 20x. Everybody with me so far? So we've divided, and now we've multiplied. Then what was our next thing? subtract. Okay, I want everybody to put your pencils down and look at me, or just make sure you're looking at me. All eyes on me. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me. Okay, when you're subtracting polynomials, it's like subtracting this whole thing. What do we do when we're subtracting polynomials with this minus sign? It starts with a D, distribute. So what you need to do, and this is the place where people make the most mistakes, you have to, when you distribute, it basically changes the signs. So when we're subtracting, we're going to make this a minus, and we're going to make this a minus. You have to make whatever you have down there, change each one of the signs. If it's a minus already, guess what you're going to make it?
Plus.
A plus. You're going to change the signs, and then you're going to combine straight down. Here's how you know you're doing it right. If the first terms cross out, we know we're doing it right. So here I have a 3x, and I'm going to bring down the negative 16. So now this is my new polynomial that I'm going to take the first term in the new polynomial, and guess what I'm going to divide it by? X. We're always dividing by this first term. So now I've got 3x divided by x, and what do I get? 3. So I have a positive 3. What am I going to do with that 3? Multiply it by this whole thing. So I have a 3 times x plus 5, which gives me a 3x plus 15. And now what do I need to do? Change the signs. You're going to get tired of me saying it because I'm going to say it a lot. So I'm going to change the sign. This becomes minus. This becomes minus. So this becomes a negative 31. Can I divide negative 31 by x? No. So this is my remainder. Once you get to the end and you can't actually divide it, this is your remainder. And here's how you're going to write it. You're going to write a plus at the end of your answer. You're going to put whatever your remainder is on top, negative 31, divided by whatever you were dividing by, which technically was x plus 5. And that's your answer. Okay? I'm going to give you guys one, and then I'm going to give you one more in your notes. Or actually, wait, I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to give you one. Use long division. Here's one. Okay, let's do one more of our notes, and then I'll let you try one on your own before I let you go. So here's the one we're going to do. We're going to take, I lost it. There it is, number 16. We're going to take, and we're going to divide by x minus 4. And what we're going to divide is this. We're going to divide x cubed minus 13x minus 12. Okay, I left a space here. Why did I leave a space?
Because we need to fill in for x squared.
You got to fill in for the x squared. Because we start with an x cubed, we have to have a place for every single x as you go down. If you don't fill it in, you're going to see that you're going to run into problems as you go. So that's a big clue, and then you can erase and go back. So I'm just going to fill this in with the plus 0x squared. Okay, this one I'm always going to be dividing by the x, and I'm going to start with x cubed. So I'm going to move a little faster this time. X cubed divided by x is going to give me x squared. Everybody good with that? So I have my x squared up here. I'm going to multiply x squared by my x minus 4. So I get x cubed minus 4x squared. What do I need to do with this polynomial here? Change the signs. Most important part. So this becomes a minus. That becomes a plus. So I can bring straight down here. I get 4x squared. I'm going to bring everything else down. Minus 13x minus 12. So I can just make my new polynomial. You guys want to finish this one? Okay, and then I'm going to let you go from start to finish with one more, and then we'll be done. 4x plus 6.
Multiply 4x by x.
This 4x has to be multiplied by this. It's right here.
I don't know if I do it right or not.
Okay, so I'll just start working through this. We have 4x squared divided by x. This gives me 4x. Then I've got to multiply my 4x by my x minus 4. So that gave me 4x squared minus 16x. And I have to change my signs. So these two cross out, which is lovely. And then I get a 3x minus 12, right? Yeah. So now I have 3x divided by x. 3x divided by x is going to give me a 3. 3 times x minus 4 is going to give me a 3x minus 12. What do I need to do with my signs here? Change my signs, and everything crosses out, which means I get a remainder of 0.
Which means you're done, so.
Which means I'm done.
Oh, so I did quite right. Let's go.
Done, done, done. Okay? Let's do one more, and then I'm going to give you guys your worksheet. Let me
Or
look
should
at
have a
the...
lot of questions.
Huh?
Or should have a lot of questions.
There are 16 of them.
That's a lot.
You'll be fine. Okay, you guys try this one all by yourself. Okay, I'm gonna write this up here, and you guys can do it all by yourself. I just found another one. So we're gonna divide x cubed minus 57x plus 56. 50b by x minus 7. Okay? Beware when you do this. I spy a hole you got to fill in.
So.
Is the end number 56?
Yeah. I started writing the by. So I put it 5b. That's 56. Okay, let's see what we did. So I filled in a 0x squared because we didn't have an x squared up here, but we had an x cubed. So I'm going to take x cubed divided by x, and I'll get x squared. Then I'm going to take the x squared, I'm going to multiply it by this right here. So x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 7 is negative 7x. And what do I need to do with my signs? Change the signs. So these two cross out. Lovely. And I get 7x, so that should be a square. 7x squared minus 57x plus 57, or plus 56. Why am I messing up that 56 so bad Then what am I going to divide now?
7x squared divided
By x. Okay, what's 7x squared divided by x? 7x. So that's up here. So we're going to take that and multiply it by this whole thing. So I get 7x squared and then minus 49x. Everybody agree with me? Change the signs. I heard it. So this becomes minus. This becomes plus. So these cross out. What do I get with negative 57 plus 49? Negative 8x plus 56. So we're going to take negative 8x divided by x, and we get negative 8. Multiply that here, I get negative 8x plus 56. Change my signs, and what happens?
And you're done.
0. So this is my answer. Okay, you guys ready to rock this?
Yeah.
It's not too bad. Here's the trick though, and I don't know, I didn't really check on your worksheet. If you have a 0 to fill in, I think you guys will pick this up fine. The other place we will make mistakes is if this would have been an x squared minus 7, guess what you would have had to fill in?
X.
The x. Okay, so anytime you have a whole, you have to fill in with a 0, whatever value you're missing. Okay, so just be aware of that. Here's what we're doing today. I'm going to go ahead and start off by apologizing because when I printed this, I noticed that I didn't leave enough. I started to leave room and then I stopped leaving room. So I don't know what happened there. But, so you might need to use your own paper. You are going to check your work and you're going to turn this in today. So you're going to work 3, check 3. Work 3, check 3. So you can make sure you're doing it right before you leave here today. Because tomorrow we go on to synthetic division.
Which is easier.
Yeah, but it didn't always work.
Huh?
Sure. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you're going to turn in whatever you have done when you leave, but I want you to work a couple, come up and check the answers. Make sure you're doing it right. All I really care, but I am going to take it for points, but all I really care about is that you guys are good with this before you leave today.
You are gonna take